So the Oil Slick is a style of fly that I've tied before. The Perdigon style has a little twist. I'll show you how that works.
Dude, that's a big brown bro.
All right, we are going to tie this Oil Slick Perdigon. If you've seen, we have got another tutorial for the Oil Slick Chironomid, which is a favorite. And this is the same kind of style where we're going to use the cool technique with the wire under, not ribbed over the body. So we'll start off with, this is a size 18 jig force from Fulling Mill. You could use whatever you like. And then with these slotted beads, and this is a question we get asked a lot with how to fit the beads onto a hook. I find if I hold and pinch with kind of an upward motion, and then I just slide the thread up in between my finger and the bead, you can get enough wraps to lock that in place. But all right, so we've just applied a little thread dam behind the bead just to lock it in place. Now I'll come down about halfway down the shank, and I'm going to tie in my feathers. I like Coq de Leon for Perdigons, and this is a pink. You can use red or orange, but it's just more of a hot spot kind of color. All right, so I'm going to measure out about 3/4 of the body length is what I want this, or the shank length. And we'll just pinch wrap that right to the top, and then I give it 2 wraps and I'll adjust. So about like that. And I'm just going to give that a tug and then a wrap. And that's going to be fairly locked in. You can trim this now. I want to trim it so that it ends right before the thread dam or right in that neighborhood so we can avoid bulk. Okay, so this is where this becomes a little different. So we're going to tie in the tinsel first, because that will wrap up last, and the wire is going to go wrap up first, and then the tinsel can suck down over that, and I'll show you in a minute. So we'll just tie in on the top, and you want to keep your tension pretty consistent so that you don't have those tail fibers going ski-wampus. And I want those to be fairly close to that tie-in point at the back. So I just kind of let that slip there, and making sure my tail fibers are still right in the spot. Okay. And then one little locking wrap, and you have to be careful. I'm just trying to not create a whole lot of, bumps in the back. So we'll grab some wire. In this case, I'm using Semperfli 0.2 millimeter. You could use UTC Brassy. Semperfli, you get a little better bang for the buck because they come in more quantity. So you get more on each spool. And the way I tie this in is I'm going to run the wire up the length of the fly right into the bead. And that will also help us because we're going to need to fill in some resin in a minute, and that helps to even that out. And we'll come up the body, touching turns, right up to that bead. Okay, now we'll just grab our wire, and we can get 4 or 5 wraps of the wire. Just create a nice little segmented body. I'll get that as close as I can to the tie-in point. You can cut it or helicopter it off, whatever you prefer. Okay. All right, so now I'm just going to grab my tinsel, and this is kind of a balance. You don't want to pull it so hard that it breaks, but you do need to pull it hard enough so that it sucks down over the wire and into the space between the wire wraps. So the first wrap is probably the one you want the tightest, And then I usually just try to make sure my tail is a little out of the way. And then you're going to do overlapping turns coming down on each piece of wire as you go. And if you pull not too hard, you'll see still that color of the wire coming through. And so this originally, like I said, was to imitate a chironomid pupa. So this fly would be a midge pupa, or it's just a good attractor all around. So that's what the body looks like, and you can kind of see how even though the wire is covered up, the tinsel pulls down on top of it. And that's why it's called the oil slick, because that kind of looks like if you had some oil of the sheen it gets in the water. So we'll tie that off, trim this. And now we'll whip finish. We're almost done. One thing to note, I'm using these Renomed scissors. These things are the bomb. If you're tying smaller flies especially, such nice tips. Sharp and fine. Okay, we're going to do this in a couple steps. So first off, we need to create the standard Perdigon hotspot on the back. Now I've done these in red as well as the standard black. So you can mix it up, do whatever you want. I also sometimes use red thread. So you'd have the red as a hotspot here with the black over the top of it. Anyway, mix and match to whatever you want. And so I'm going to take some of this Solar Res. This is probably the best Perdigon black hotspot. It's not the bone dry black. It's the actual black color of the UV resin. You give that a shake. And I tend to like to use a bodkin for this. Now that's maybe a little much, but what you can do is you can just tap a little and it's going to start to go into that hole, the slot. And now I'm going to zap it, and that will fill the hole so that my next little tap is just going to be the spot. And we'll just kind of pull that over, zap it. And this stuff dries or dries, cures, pretty tack free, so it's nice. Look how that bead though, that light pink, lights up. Okay, and then we're just going to give it a once over with regular UV resin. And when I say regular, I mean the fluorescing kind from Loon, because that's my favorite. And this is just to coat the body a little bit. We don't need a ton. And then that hot spot too. So just kind of a very thin coating over the whole thing. And I'll just use my bodkin to work this in and around. Not a ton. And then before I cure it, I just want to make sure I can still see the segments on that with the wire. And if I need to, you can dab it and give it the final zap. And now you can see that UV resin in between the ribs there. Nice little effect. So anyway, that's the Oil Slick Perdigon, same style. It's the same effect. I think that effect in the water just is something that has a little extra something something. So give this a try. We do have this fly for sale on our website. The links are below. The material list is also found below. Click it, like it. Let us know how you like this fly.